Steelers Hall of Honor. Who's next? Steelers Nation Unite is giving you the chance to nominate who you think should be in the 2018 Hall of Honor class. Each week, Hall of Honor selection panel member Stan Savran reviews select Steelers Nation Unite nominations. Now here's Stan with this week's featured nominees.
And to join Steelers Nation Unite, it really takes a click. Just go to SteelersNationUnite.com. Maybe 2 clicks. You can join right there. It doesn't cost anything. Gives you an opportunity to make a nomination for the Steelers Hall of Honor Class 2018. There will be a minimum of 2 new members, a maximum of 4. The committee will begin meeting sometime late spring, early summer. I'm proud and honored to be a member of that group, along with Bob Labriola of Steelers.com, Joe Gordon, longtime public relations director of the Steelers, Tony Quattrini, longtime marketing director of the Steelers, and you may have heard of this guy, Art Rooney II. He gets a seat. He's got the seat. He actually sits on a little throne. No, he doesn't. That's not Art or any of the Rooneys for that matter. But you can nominate, and we'll be taking your nominations as well as some we come up. And each week we've been talking about some of the people that Steelers Nation Unite members have nominated. And I always preface my remarks by saying everyone nominated is going to be deserving. We've talked about a lot of great players. We talked, I think it was last week, was Bill Cowher and Alan Faneca. I mean, obviously, these guys all deserve to be in. This week, I think we talked about Casey Hampton last week also. Clearly going to be in the Hall of Honor. The nominees suggested by you, Steelers Nation Unite, nominators, are 2 guys who have a great place in Steeler history. That would be James Farrior and Hines Ward. James Farrior came to the Steelers as maybe, arguably, the best free agent signing they've ever had. Now, I know that there have been others. Some would say, remember Jerome Bettis, they got in a trade. They acquired him in a trade. James Farrior came here as a free agent, signed by Kevin Colbert. James Farrior had been a number 1 pick. He wasn't an unknown quantity, but he didn't work out well for the Jets. And one of the reasons, after he was drafted by the Jets in the first round as an outside linebacker, the Jets at that time played a 4-3. The Steelers, of course, played a 3-4. And it just didn't work out for James in New York for whatever reason. Kevin Colbert and the Steelers signed him. And it wasn't like they had some sort of an epiphany and said, oh, we're going to get him because he can play inside linebacker. No, the fact of the matter is that when James Farrior first came here, he was a reserve. He wasn't a starter. And he was still played as an outside linebacker on the right side, where they traditionally have had some of the greatest players that they've ever had. At that time, it was Joey Porter's job. And it was injury and the fact that they saw that James Farrior, at his size, might be better suited to play inside in a 3-4 than he was to play outside either in a 3-4 or a 4-3. And so they moved him inside. And he became a starter. And he became incredibly productive. Now, there were a lot of great players on those defenses. The aforementioned Casey Hampton, of course, and Aaron Smith, and Brett Kiesel, and Joey Porter, and Troy Polamalu, and Ike Taylor was a heck of a cornerback. But I think that James Farrior, moving into that slot, solidified what became a great defense. We know about the history, 2004, winning the Super Bowl in 2005, going back there in '08, winning again with what was the best defense in 2008 since the Steel Curtain days of the mid-1970s. And I honestly believe that James Farrier's insertion into that lineup ended up being an epiphany for him and for the entire Steelers team. He just fit there perfectly. Plus, they needed a guy who not only was good in pass coverage, good against the run, but could rush the passer. And they ran those Fire X, where they would send the linebackers, in different directions. He was tremendous at that. But maybe his most important contribution came from a cerebral standpoint. He called the defenses. Now, yes, the defenses are called by the coach upstairs, the defensive coordinator, but the guy wearing the green sticker on his helmet, he has to be able to get everybody on the same page, in the right position. We heard so often last season, the Steelers, well, there wasn't good communication. There was miscommunication. That guy missed an assignment. Now, part of that is just the skill of the players involved and their attention to detail, but some of that is also the puppeteer, the guy who has the marionettes and the strings in his hands, and that was James Farrior. And maybe even more important than that, although it's hard to top that, was James Farrior was a great leader. There were others. Remember, this was a time when Ben Roethlisberger was a rookie, a young quarterback. They limited the offense. Jerome Bettis was certainly a leader. Troy Polamalu, very quiet, a leader in his own way. But you had more vocal guys like Brett Kiesel and another silent leader in a guy like Aaron Smith, who might have been the most respected player in the locker room. If he was, James Farrior, as he was affectionately known, Potsy, wasn't far behind Aaron Smith. He set the tone. He had a calming influence. And we talk about these Steelers, the 2018 Steelers and past tense of 2017 Steelers, about needing this or that on defense and players and positions. In my view, what they need more than anything is some solid leadership. And that's what guys like James Farrior gave. Social media was around to a degree, certainly not to the extent that it is today. I mean, it's only been 10 years. Seems like a long time. It's only been 10 years since they won Super Bowl 43. But things have changed. And that's not to say that players wouldn't still be on social media, but I dare say that if you had a guy like James Farrior around, some of the stuff that we have seen would not happen. Why? Because the leadership in that locker room would have been all over those guys. They wouldn't have needed you as a fan, me as a media guy, even Tomlin as a coach, or Art Rooney II as an owner. Sometimes the most effective words are delivered by teammates, peers, men who are respected. And that's why James Farrior, for any number of reasons, should be in the Hall of Honor and will be. Hines Ward led in a different manner. He called himself the Steelers' leader of the wide receivers. And he was, but through performance, not words. Hines Ward was a great player. Hines Ward also had, shall we say, fairly healthy ego. I think that's a kind way to put it. Not that he put himself above the team, but he was also concerned about personal stats. I remember one time, in training camp, they just wanted to move and try Hines Ward from outside to a slot receiver. They just wanted to see if they could use him there. This is only training camp now, not even a game. And he pouted like someone had taken away his Christmas toys. And he was moping around and everything else. And they found, okay, we won't do that. And they put him back outside where he was going to end up being. But that's the way he was. It didn't diminish his performance. You lead by example when you are barely a 205-pound wide receiver and you're looking to crack back on 250-pound linebackers, and you relish doing it. You are showing leadership when you go directly after Ray Lewis. Here, take that, Ray. Other players notice that. And they admire that. And they are inspired by that. Again, leadership. Performance, if it's 3rd down and 7, and you need that 7.5 to get that first down, can you think of a receiver who is more reliable, more dependable than Hines Ward? I mean, you might certainly rate Hall of Famers Swan and Stallworth, a surefire Hall of Famer and Antonio Brown, as overall better receivers just in terms of route running and catching the ball and that sort of thing, although Hines was a good route runner. He had to be. Didn't have great speed, didn't have great size. But in terms of reliability, that's one of the things that made Hines Ward so great. I'll bet you could count on one hand, as I think back, the number of passes thrown anywhere near Hines Ward that he dropped. I'm really having a tough time thinking about that. I really can't think of anyone more reliable as a receiver. There have been several great ones around here than Hines Ward. Certainly a deserving member of the Steelers Hall of Honor. We'll be doing this every week until the draft. By the way, there's going to be a special 1-hour program on the Hall of Honor beginning to air on Steelers Nation Radio beginning next week. And I'll give you details on that if you get Steelers Nation Radio, which you also can get on the iHeartMedia app. I'll be on board with that with Bob Labriola and our Steeler expert, Matt Williamson, who will be joining me on Friday.